Music is the most emotional of the arts, the art form we're most immediately drawn to. It's perhaps the most personal of the arts, the one we feel most closely connected to. The music we grew up with becomes an essential part of our sense of self. Two lovers exclaim, "That's our song." A film without a soundtrack is nearly unthinkable, and even silent films had music. Music accompanies countless cultural rituals, from political inaugurations and religious ceremonies to shopping, from weddings to funerals. Music is thus simultaneously personal, subjective, and social, intersubjective. Music is the universal language. It crosses cultural boundaries. It creates shared emotional experiences where language barriers cannot. Yet what exactly makes music emotional? Shared emotional experiences are bound by culture, and music plays so profound a role in our culture that entire groups of people even organize themselves according to their musical tastes. We thus have hip-hopsters, headbangers, punks, goths, and any number of other subcultures. For all of these groups, music is their organizing principle. The musical styles to which these groups adhere carry with them entire subcultures which dictate clothing, vocabulary and language patterns, behaviors, and even worldviews. Articles of clothing advertise headshots of pop stars and tacitly mandate entire behavioral codes. It is the music above all that binds these groups and separates them from others. We thus define ourselves in part by our musical tastes. Yet how does taste arise? We assume that taste is merely relative, and nobody can deny that to a great extent it is. However, relative is not random. I'm aware that taste in art isn't the same as culinary taste, but the two are at least analogous. There exist symphonies for alarm clocks and airplane propellers, but have you ever wondered why there's no ultra-modernist food with similarly unpalatable ingredients? Or perhaps total cerealist food with the same 12 ingredients, endlessly recycled in different combinations? Or ultra-minimalist cuisine with only one ingredient? Or how about ambient food, or aleatoric or chance cuisine, consisting of your neighbor's food, or whatever happens to land on your plate? Now, like a taste in food, musical taste is personal, if not arbitrary. We consider ourselves experts when it comes to musical taste, and our own is always peerless. Music seems to me to be the only field in which this is the case, and I believe it to be a result of the democratization of art, and hence the conference theme of mediocrity. Yet what layperson would proclaim their medical knowledge to be superior to that of the doctors, or that they comprehend the physical universe better than the physicist? If not random, taste is, after all, personal, subjective, and hence emotional. This brings us back to our central question. Why are we so attached to music, so much so that it can form an integral part of our very identities? What exactly makes music emotional? Where does emotion come from in music? Aren't emotions by definition subjective? And isn't all aesthetics therefore just apples and oranges, as we say? Is there such a thing as great music? I'm well aware that this is dangerous territory. The very suggestion is now scoffed at by aestheticians now that cultural relativism has usurped the academy. Even music theorists, until recently, balked at the suggestion that music could somehow contain emotion, and instead preferred to concentrate solely on formal analysis, which deals only with music's objective elements. But there are ways to access music's emotional content, if indeed human emotions are somehow inherent in music. So let's venture some answers to this question. What makes music emotional? One answer is that we've been duped. We're conditioned or even manipulated to respond to certain harmonic and structural patterns, at least enough to influence our buying behaviors. According to this view, music is a consumable good with a deliberately limited shelf life. Music is not art for art's sake, but rather a consumer product like any other. This may be a bit of a cynical view, but at least it's testable. And in fact, this plays a major role in how much music is produced. This is a brand new historical phenomenon, by the way, and a consequence of consumer society. There is, in fact, a continuous commercialization of musical products in which culture is appropriated and subsequently produced by corporations. The relation between aesthetics and commerce is not only a reciprocal one, but the two are so intimately intertwined that aesthetic production itself is as much the product of marketing science as it is creativity. This is what they don't want you to know. It's not widely known that there exist companies that service the pop music industry for the express purpose of manufacturing hit singles. Since at least the 1970s, these companies have measured the emotional responses of subjects to as yet unreleased music, creating invaluable databases for their clients. Test subjects are treated to a plethora of electrodes which measure brain, heart, and nervous system response to music. Since then, event-related brain potentials and skin conductance responses can be added to databases and correlated with top 40 hits. Needless to say, I have no idea what those are. Today, such music analysis is largely software-driven. One such company describes its services thus: our second-generation algorithms measure innovation prediction cycles in musical structure by using spectrum variables for power law detection. They also measure deviation analysis from the universality trend through detection of cycles from the universality trend and the detection of innovation and prediction wavelets. There you are. Now, what's wrong with this besides the fact that nobody, including myself, has any idea what that means? It may help account for taste, since it explains in part how at least some music is produced, and hence what people are exposed to. After all, you can't develop a taste for something you've never tasted. However, the theory has no explanatory power with regard to emotions. This process simply measures people's reactions, but it fails to explain why we react the way we do to certain sounds arranged in a certain order. Electrodes can measure nervous system response. Software can analyze a song's similarity to established hits, but they don't tell us what in the music actually makes us respond the way we do. A second theory is that it's the words that account for musical meaning and emotion. Think about this. What does music mean, after all? And where does musical meaning come from? I often hear people say things like, that song is really sad. I'll then ask them, what exactly is sad about it? And they invariably reply, the words. Yet the lyrics represent just one layer of meaning. And words are poetry, not music. It's a different art form altogether. A wonderful irony is that Elton John's sad song Say So Much is not itself a sad song. Oops, sorry. Better be careful with this. See if it still works. Everybody knows Elton John's song, sad song Say So Much. It's a quintessential three-chord popular song. C major, F major, G major. And in our culture, we automatically associate major with things like happy or extroverted. Its converse, minor, is sad, introverted, tragic. Let's take a look at some of the lyrics. When all hope is gone, sad songs say so much. The kick inside is in the line that finally gets to you, and it feels so good to hurt so bad, and suffer just enough to sing the blues. Now, whether by accident or by design, I believe Elton John, or perhaps his lyricist, Bernie Taupin, just gave us the secret to emotion in music. It feels so good to hurt so bad. What is this paradox? The answer lies in consonance and dissonance. Virtually all Western music speaks the same language. This language is called tonality. This is why we can talk of different genres of music in the same breath. They all speak the same language. As in life, musical dissonance is tension, and it inherently seeks resolution to consonance. Dissonance and consonance are music's equivalents to pain and pleasure. The great irony is that music is beautiful and hence pleasurable because it's painful. It's the dissonances that pull at our heartstrings, that give us goosebumps and move us to tears. There's a story that Mozart's father would wake him up in the morning by playing a scale, all but the last note. And then little Mozart would rush out of bed and have to resolve this dissonance. I don't know if it's true. It's probably apocryphal, but it's the story that goes around. The dissonance, then, is an unresolved inner musical conflict. And like real-life dissonances, it cries out for resolution. Yet we can't just pile on dissonance in an otherwise tonal piece of music and expect it to mean something. That's just the musical equivalent of blood and guts. And this sort of gratuitous violence is typically just as displeasing in music as it is in the movies. It's ugly. So like a skilled film director, a good composer controls dramatic events in a musical work. Dissonances are carefully set up, layered, distended in time to build drama, and their resolutions to consonance provide temporary relief. Only the very end of a large-scale work, say Beethoven's Eroica Symphony, provides ultimate resolution and satisfaction. Now this is, by the way, why I consider fade-outs in popular music to be cheating. They're ineffective to me in that they don't actually resolve anything. How would we feel if a movie just faded out without us ever getting to know how the story was resolved? Now, there are many examples of avant-garde music consisting only of dissonances. But what would music be without dissonance? Let's do an experiment and find out. I'll take a simple piece by Mozart, the Adagio for glass harmonica. It sounds haunting on glass harmonica. It's an instrument that was invented by Benjamin Franklin. It imitates the sound of rubbing your fingers around the rims of glasses. Beautiful sound, but it's also beautiful on the piano, since I don't play glass harmonica. Let me play the opening phrase for you. It starts simply enough with the notes C, E, and G. These form the C major triad, and since the piece is in C major, these tones are consonant. This is our musical home base, where the drama starts and the happy stability to which it needs to return. Now, most movies don't start with a sex scene. We need a little romance first. Now, what are these next notes in the melody? this. These are preparations for the next harmony. These are definitely dissonances, like the G sharp in the accompaniment. It's not even part of the C major scale. So these have got to go. Now, the preparations become suspensions, which are always dissonances, so these have to go too. Now, they arrive at the new harmony of A minor, and then the bass has a passing tone, which is also a dissonance, so that's out too. So, from this, we're left with this once we remove the dissonances. Now, the next two measures are fairly intricate. But once we eliminate the chromatic neighbor tones and the passing tones, we're left with just one new chord in measure 3. Now, the beginning of measure 4 has the notes we need. C, E, and G, so this should be a consonant. Now remember, these are the notes to which we're trying to return. This is our starting point. And now we have all of those notes. But listen. Oops. Now, we're not satisfied because the music is still unresolved. Mozart is playing a trick on us. Music theorists call this a cadential 6/4, but don't worry about that. We have all of the right notes for the home key, but they're out of order, and the C and E are actually dissonances on the way to a new chord. So once we've eliminated the dissonances, we're left with this. We can reduce this still further to these 4 chords. But wait, all of the other chords, except for C major, are dissonances in this context. So we're really just left with this. So dissonance, then, is what gives music life, and conversely, it is life's dissonances that give our lives music. There's a famous quote by Nietzsche, "Ohne die Musik wäre das Leben ein Irrtum." Without music, life would be a mistake. I think this is what Nietzsche was referring to. Music has the magical power to give meaning to all of life's experiences, to transform joy and pain alike into beauty. Thank you.